I'm James DeGregori. I'm a professor at the University of Colorado School of Medicine, Aurora, Colorado, and I'm also Deputy Director of the Cancer Center.
I'm Tullia Bruno. I'm at the University of Pittsburgh in the Department of Immunology, and I am Junior Faculty Assistant Professor.
We've always been very interested in pre-malignancies. And so when we started thinking about how we would address this problem, we knew that a key component of the lung microenvironment that we needed to be able to address was the immune component.
One thing that's really underdeveloped in the tumor immunology world, which is kind of the circle that I really run in from all the work that I do, especially in individuals, is it's really difficult to know kind of what's happening early on that could be influencing what happens downstream. Compared to James, I'm still developing as a scientist. I'm still trying to, make my mark, so to speak. And so when you're trying to do that, you would like to have some of these ideas that you have that are really novel and different be funded.
This study, it's bringing together a diversity of different investigators. So from pulmonologists who are basically, sending their bronchoscopes down the lungs and getting the samples for us, to computational biologists who are going to help analyze the data, to immunologists, to people like myself that look more at the sort of the genetics of the tumor, and a stem cell biologist as well. So we have a diversity of scientists. So for one, I'll note that, if you notice, I've got a little Band-Aid on my nose. So I had a little squamous cell carcinoma removed. And so for skin cancers, it's very easy to find, detect, and remove pre-malignant lesions or early cancers before they can get dangerous. So I may lack a little nose, but I'm really out of any sort of risk. It's not so easy in the lung.
The most exciting things I've seen are thinking about the entire microenvironment, which, as James alluded to, that's something we're doing with this grant. So not just the immune piece, but how does a tumor cell play a role, and how does a fibroblast play a role, and how does a mesenchymal stem cell play a role, like all of those pieces together that actually make that microenvironment. I think a lot of people are kind of having this multidisciplinary approach to kind of approach that, and I think that's really good and up and coming. I think thinking about new immunological targets is another thing. So one of my main focuses for my research is B cells, which has been very overlooked over the last 10, 20 years, and people see them all the time. They see them in response to immunotherapy, they see them in solid tumors, in these structures with T cells, and so we've really delved into understanding those better in the lab. But there's other cells too, like myeloid cells that are being better characterized, and so I think those have potential new prospect for new immunotherapies. And then I think the third piece is thinking about novel combinations, and so there's all these combinatory drugs, and so I think stepping back and rethinking why some drugs that are in the clinic aren't working, and how they might be working better in a sequential manner. So maybe you don't give them together. Maybe you give one first to make a tumor less cold, and then you give another one to kind of mobilize the cells that get in there after that cold part of the tumor is gone. So I think those three things are really focuses moving forward for the tumor immunology field. And it kind of brings other disciplines together, but it's also somewhat separate from what other people are doing. So it's kind of nice to see both.
These studies should also do is they should give us insight into potential means of intervention. Because if we could figure out, how the flavor changed, and if that flavor change correlates with increased risk of cancer, then we could say, okay, how do we change the flavor back? And that is a little more challenging, and that's not what we're going to do in this grant, but this grant should basically tell us what those sort of targets are and what those approaches might be that we can pursue in subsequent years. Donors, by supporting an organization like the AACR, they're not just sort of supplementing what the NCI does. I think they're really providing something different that can be more catalytic.
For me, I'm always actively working on the immune system and lung cancer, so I've already talked to James even at this meeting about some grant funds that we could go after, to follow up on some of these, to supplement, to enhance what we're doing, so that we can then move toward that larger grant through the NIH or the NCI to really fund our projects moving forward.